Level 1. Your brain notices. What others miss. Imagine walking into a room. Nothing seems unusual. People are smiling, talking, laughing. Everything looks normal. Except one person feels off. You can't explain it. You don't have proof. But something doesn't fit. Most people ignore that feeling. Your brain doesn't. Here's why. Your mind is constantly scanning the world. Not for lies, for patterns. How someone normally talks. How quickly they answer. How they smile. How they breathe. How they move. Your brain stores all of it. Silently. Without asking permission. Then, the moment one tiny pattern changes, an alarm goes off. Not a loud one. A whisper. Something's different. Most people mistake this feeling for intuition. Psychology says it's something else. Pattern recognition. The brain has spent years collecting information. Millions of tiny observations. Every conversation. Every facial expression. Every awkward pause. Every nervous laugh. It remembers far more than you realize. That's why some people seem to detect lies instantly. They aren't reading minds. They're recognizing broken patterns. And broken patterns always deserve attention. Level 2. The biggest myths about detecting lies movies have taught us. Liars never make eye contact. Their hands shake, they sweat, they look nervous. Reality is much more complicated. Some liars stare directly into your eyes. Too directly. Some smile confidently. Some sound completely relaxed. Because experienced liars know the stereotypes. They perform honesty. That's what makes deception dangerous. There isn't one magical sign. There never was. Psychologists have searched for decades. No single facial expression. No single body movement. No single sentence can prove someone is lying. Instead, the truth hides inside clusters. Several unusual behaviors appearing together. A delayed answer. A forced smile. A strange change in tone. Too many unnecessary details. Or almost no details at all. One clue means very little. 5 clues paint a very different picture. That's why people who are good at spotting lies never focus on one behavior. They observe the whole person. Level 3. Why lying is harder than telling the truth. Truth comes from memory. A lie has to be built. Think about that. When someone tells the truth, their brain retrieves information. When someone lies, their brain creates information. Those are completely different tasks. One is natural, the other is work. A liar has to invent a believable story. Keep it consistent. Avoid contradictions. Remember previous lies. Control emotions. Control facial expressions. Control body language. Control their voice. All at once. That's mental overload. And overloaded brains make mistakes. Maybe they pause too long. Maybe they answer too quickly. Maybe they repeat your question. Maybe they explain things you never asked about. The harder someone tries to appear believable, the more pressure they create. Pressure creates cracks. Tiny ones. Almost invisible. Unless you know where to look. Level 4. The secret of baselines. Here's the mistake most people make. They judge strangers too quickly, without knowing what's normal. Imagine meeting someone. They're naturally shy. They avoid eye contact. Their voice shakes. Does that make them dishonest? Not at all. That's simply who they are. Psychologists call this a baseline, a person's normal behavior. Without a baseline, you cannot detect meaningful change. This is why skilled interviewers spend time talking about ordinary things first. Weather, family, hobbies, nothing important. They're learning your normal rhythm. Only then do they ask difficult questions. Because change matters more than behavior. Someone who suddenly becomes different is far more interesting than someone who has always acted that way. Level 5. The power of listening beyond words. Words tell stories. Behavior tells the truth. Most people listen to respond. Highly observant people listen to understand. They notice hesitation, changes in speed, sudden silence, incomplete answers, odd emotional reactions. Sometimes, the biggest clue isn't what someone says. It's what they never mention. Real memories are messy. They include random details, small mistakes, natural pauses. Real life isn't perfectly organized, but fabricated stories often sound too clean, too polished, almost rehearsed. Ironically, perfect stories can be suspicious because life rarely feels perfect. Level 6. Why emotions can fool you. Here's something surprising. Fear looks a lot like deception. A nervous person may be completely innocent. An anxious person may simply hate being questioned. Stress changes everything. Heart rate increases, hands shake, voices crack, eyes wander. Exactly the behaviors people wrongly associate with lying. That's why experts avoid jumping to conclusions. Emotion is not proof. Confidence is not proof. Even tears are not proof. Human emotions are complicated. The smartest observers separate feelings from facts because assuming too quickly can destroy trust, sometimes forever. Level 7. The hidden reason people lie. Not every lie comes from evil. Many come from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of disappointing someone, fear of losing love, fear of punishment. Psychology calls many of these protective lies. They're designed not to hurt others, but to protect ourselves. That doesn't make them right, but it makes them understandable. The best observers don't only ask, "Is this person lying?" They ask, "What are they protecting?" That question changes everything, because every lie is trying to hide something, not always the truth, sometimes a wound. Level 8. The psychology of self-deception. The hardest lies to detect are your own. Human beings don't just lie to others, they lie to themselves. "I'm fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me." Sometimes, those are the biggest lies of all. Your brain protects your identity. It avoids painful truths. It rewrites memories. It justifies bad decisions. Not because you're weak, because that's how the mind survives. Understanding other people starts here, with yourself. The more honest you become about your own thoughts, the easier it becomes to understand everyone else. Level 9. Why some people become human. Lie detectors. People who seem impossible to fool usually have one thing in common: attention. Not intelligence, not psychic powers. Attention. They notice patterns, tiny changes, contradictions, timing, emotion, context. They don't rush to judge. They collect evidence, quietly, patiently, curiously. While everyone else is listening to words, they're watching behavior. While everyone else is reacting, they're observing. That's their advantage. Not better eyesight, better awareness. Level 10. The truth about seeing through lies. In the end, detecting lies isn't about exposing people. It's about understanding them. Because every deception has a reason. Every hidden truth has a story. Every mask protects something underneath. The people who recognize lies the fastest usually aren't the loudest. They're the quietest, the most patient, the most observant. They know something most people forget. Words can be rehearsed. Expressions can be practiced. Stories can be memorized. But genuine human behavior leaves patterns, and the patterns are incredibly difficult to fake. The greatest skill isn't knowing when someone is lying. It's knowing when to keep observing, when to keep listening, and when the truth has already revealed itself without a single confession.